UFC 259, we have Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz. This is a stacked card. Before we even start the show, I have to say this is a super stacked card. 15 fights on this one. This might be card of the year. I'm calling it now. Might be card of the year. You have a ton of fights on here. He goes by Zan. I go by Harris. We are boxing MMA picks. Of course, we are here to give you our picks, our news, our guidelines on which fights to avoid, which fights are worth the value, which fights are presenting some real good value, and perhaps we'll even give you a bit of at the end. So again, we're here to talk about UFC 259, Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz. As usual, we're going to talk about the prelims first. Like I mentioned, 10 fights on the prelims. I'll be honest with you, if the prelims was its own card, I wouldn't even be mad at that. That's how stacked the prelims alone is. So let's get right into it. We have a lot of work to do. Fight number one, Trevin Jones versus Mario Bautista. Let's talk about this one. How do you feel?
Well, I made this one quick. I like Mario in this fight. I really like him in this spot. I think he should be able to – I think he's going to have an advantage almost everywhere in this fight. And I think this fight's going to stay on the feet. I think Mario's the better striker, so I think he's going to put a hurting on Jones. So I like Mario here in the first fight.
Now, while I do want to agree with that, I definitely do expect a high pace. I do expect Bautista, like you said, to have the better stand-up, definitely have the better hands. Trevin Jones probably kicks a little bit more, but I would still say Mario Bautista is better with the hands and the feet. I felt the same way in Trevin Jones's fight versus Timur Valiev. Now, for the record, Trevin Jones won that fight. He was badly hurt in that fight, survived it, got a lot of opportunity from the referee. And then in the second round, Trevin Jones ended up clipping Timur and hurt him. Now, in that fight, it was a no contest. Trevin Jones failed a drug test after that. So, I mean, that could be a good or bad thing in terms of how he performs today. But what I will say is that, be careful with this. Trevin Jones has a chance. He has a chance at this. He has a chance against a better striker like we saw in the Timur Valiev fight. Just be careful with this. That's all I want to say. I am going Mario Bautista as well, but at plus 190, I might take a look at that weigh-in and I might potentially change my mind. I think Trevin Jones is potentially live on this one, so just be careful with that, at least in my opinion. Let's move on to fight number two, Uros Medic versus Aalon Cruz. And, I mean, I'll keep this one short. I'm sticking with Uros Medic. It's his UFC debut. He comes forward. He puts a lot of pressure. He's a kickboxing champion. So that kind of speaks for itself in terms of his stand-up. A really long fighter. I know he's going to have the reach disadvantage here because Aalon Cruz is super long. But Uros Medic, he does fight very tall and sort of uses the reach that he does have. Haven't really seen too much outside of Dana White Contender Series and some highlights, but from what I've seen with him, again, I like the striking. I think the guard is okay, should that even happen, but I do think this fight stays on the feet. With Aalon Cruz, very long arms, very long limbs. He definitely uses all of that. He switched stances a lot, but his pace is a little slower. It's a little bit more methodical, some would say, simply slower, others would say. I think the pace is going to be a big difference. I expect Uros Medic to kind of put the pace on him. And we saw Aalon Cruz struggle when you put the pace on him, even in his fight versus Stephen Nguyen. He won a split decision in that, but, Nguyen was sort of advancing at times, and that was giving Aalon Cruz some problems. I think Uros Medic gets it done, I think potentially even by knockout.
Yeah, Uros Medic, problem with him for me is he's fighting out of Alaska. So that the talent in Alaska is probably the lowest in the United States. So he's not fighting the best fighters, and he's finishing a lot of these guys in the first round. On the Contender Series, I've seen him destroy the guy in the first round. And in a couple minutes, he looked like the fight was over, but he was breathing heavily. Like he won the fight. I'm not sure how his cardio is going to keep up in a 3-round fight. So he definitely has to get him out of there. I'm not sure his cardio hasn't been tested yet. Cruz, patient striker. He likes to throw a lot of kicks. I agree Medic is the better striker. This fight should stay on the feet because I don't think Cruz has the best grappling to take you down. I don't think he has the best wrestling to take this fight to the mat. So if this stays standing, I think Medic is just a better striker. But I am concerned with the fact that Medic fights out of Alaska and the fact that I haven't really seen much of him after the first round. So I'm going to go with Medic. I think he is the better striker, but there are some question marks here that I'm going to find out on fight night.
Yeah, question marks. Always question marks with fighters that you don't really see too much competitive, for lack of better word, footage out of. It does leave some to be desired, and that's always a slight risk. So, someone like Uros Medic, although we both feel like he should win, he's not a fighter that I'm including on a ton of parlays or anything like that. So just be wary of that, but we do expect him to remain undefeated after this fight versus Aalon Cruz. In that case, fight number 3. Pretty good fight here. At straw weight, we have Livinha Souza versus Amanda Lemos. This is a real clash of styles. We know Souza is going to want to take the fight to the ground. She has that real good ground game. She has Olympic level judo, BJJ black belt. When she does get on top, she stays active, improves position. She has a lot of toughness, willing to engage. Her stand-up isn't the best. I will say it's somewhat improving, but definitely not the best. She's going to be at a huge striking disadvantage in this fight. And, her toughness kind of makes up for it. Right? She actually does have a decent overhand right, almost Amanda Nunes style, even though I'm not going to compare her to Amanda Nunes in any way, shape, or form. She has a good calf kick, too. Again, she's just not technically the best, doesn't sort of use it, doesn't really make the best usage of her strikes because she's just not the best on the feet. I've seen her, in terms of her grappling, I've seen her be pressed against the cage. That's something I'm a little concerned about. We saw Ashley Yoder, who was just physically stronger. We saw Ashley Yoder sort of control her against the cage at times. But it's important to know with Livinha Souza, she's been a champ at every level she's been at. And that includes Invicta, if I'm not mistaken. And she's 3-1 in the UFC. So, you got to think that she does think highly of herself. I think that's important. That's an important factor for any fight because she's definitely going to take this very seriously. Amanda Lemos, on the other hand, I mean, she has that Thai style of stand-up. She fights real tall, good jab, has a ton of pop, has speed. She's dynamic on the feet, super explosive with her hands. I like her kicks a lot. I like her calf kick. I like her front kick. Thai kicks to the body. They come in fast. They come in hard. She's going to have the clear advantage on the feet in this fight. She used to compete at 135, so you got to assume she possibly is the physically stronger fighter as well. And, I mean, in the UFC, she has 100% takedown defense, so that's got to mean something in terms of her ground game. And if she does get on top, she has a decent ground game. So some vicious ground and pound. So there is some things that she can do on the ground as well. Of course, in a clash of styles, it's going to come down to whether or not Souza can get Lemos to the ground or not. I don't think she can. I think Lemos is better equipped in this fight. Of course, I respect Souza's grappling. It's really good. She's going to go for it for sure. She has a lot of toughness, and she's never been finished. But I think Lemos's hands are just too hard, too fast. The stand-up advantage is going to be too much. I assume at least in rounds 2 and 3, she will have the takedown defense to stop Souza from bringing this to the ground. And I think this fight's going to stay on the feet for the most part, and I like Amanda Lemos in this one.
Yeah, I like Leon Lemos in this spot, but definitely she has to worry with her. She does have some cardio issues that I seen in the Leslie Smith fight. In the second round, she was done, and she lost. She was winning the fight, but she literally lost the fight because she lost all her cardio. So there's that concern, right, that she could lose her cardio. But obviously, she made improvements with her cardio in that Inui fight, her recent fight. She showed me some good strength as well. Like she was able to just power out of some positions as well, just by using her sheer strength. And I think that's gonna be a factor in this fight. I don't think Souza's that strong. She does have the grappling. She needs to get this to the mat, but I don't think she's going to be strong enough to get Lemos on the ground. And I think they both have cardio issues. I think Souza has the better cardio, but I think Lemos is going to get the first 2 rounds. She might lose the third, but I think she's going to get a decision in this one.
Yeah, I think we're both thinking a 29-28 potential unanimous decision on that one. I can see that happening for sure. Let's move on to fight number 4. This is a real good one. Sean Brady versus Jake Matthews. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think this is a really close fight. I think this fight can go either way. I think these guys are pretty close in terms of what they do. They both can strike. They both can grapple. So I think this fight's going to come down to who hits who first. I think this is going to be a finish. I think someone's going to finish the other one. I was going back and forth on this fight. Maybe I'll likely put a bet on Matthews at those odds. Sake of the show, I'll take Sean Brady just because I think he has tighter striking, slightly better striking. He seems strong. He seems a bit stronger. But again, this is a close fight that I think can go either way. But I'll take Brady being like the cleaner, more technical striker in this match.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo the exact same message. I think the only real difference is Brady is possibly the slightly more technical striker. In some ways, it's a close fight. In some ways, it reminds me of the Kirillov versus Ankalaev fight last week, just in terms of, I guess, to some degree, trusting the fighter who you believe will pull it off. I do believe Sean Brady pulls it off, but we're talking similar skill sets. To your point, they both can hit hard. It kind of depends on who hits who first. But I'm going to sort of trust Sean Brady to keep that record undefeated as opposed to going with Jake Matthews. But to your point, plus 175, I really like those underdog odds for Jake Matthews. I don't see that line changing much, even on fight night. So, take a real good look at the weigh-in and just kind of assess that fight. Jake Matthews could be a live dog in that one. In that case, let's move on to fight number 5. We have Kennedy and Nzechukwu, my bad, that's real hard to say, versus Carlos Ulberg. For this fight, Carlos Ulberg, I mean, he's a kickboxer. He's a multiple-time kickboxing champion. Definitely has a lot of power in his hands as well. And, he trains with Israel, with Volkanovski, with Dan Hooker, all of those guys. I mean, so at 3-0 and 30 years old, he's kind of more than what his record would potentially indicate. For Nzechukwu, I mean, he's a long southpaw. He's a real interesting fighter to me because on one hand, he looks a little green. And on the other hand, he doesn't. He kind of looks like his stand-up is intentional in sort of his approach. A real long jab, really long 1-2 combination down the middle. He likes to stalk you down, control that center of the octagon. I do expect him to have control of the center, so for what that's worth. And, what I noticed from him is that he doesn't really check kicks the best. I think that leaves a very clear path for Ulberg to win this fight if he puts a game plan together. I think when you train with people like Israel and Volkanovski, you probably have that plan in your back pocket, but we don't know. I mean, again, he's a relatively inexperienced fighter. What I noticed in the Nzechukwu fight was that his previous fight versus Stosic gave him a lot of problems with his kickboxing, especially in the first round. He had some moments in the third. But what I'm expecting here is I'm expecting Carlos Ulberg. First of all, I'm expecting this fight to stay on the feet. And I'm going to rely on who is the better kickboxer in this fight. Of course, this fight's at 205. We know the higher the weight, the more it just depends on who clips who first. But if this is any type of battle in the stand-up as opposed to sort of a one-hit knockout, I think Ulberg has the clear advantage on the feet, and he's going to be my pick in this fight.
Yeah, I'm going to take Ulberg as well. This fight's going to most likely stay on the feet. I don't see Kennedy shooting for the takedowns. Obviously, with Ulberg, only 3 MMA fights, so there's that concern with his experience. But I like Ulberg. He has really clean striking. He should be able to keep a distance, keep a good distance here. Usually, Kennedy has a good height advantage against all his opponents, and he's 6'5". He's fighting a guy who's 6'4", so he's going to be fighting someone that's really close with that reach, who can kind of compete with that reach. And again, he's a quicker, more technical striker. He has kicks, punches. So I like him here. Plus, he has that power to knock you out, so that one-shot power. So I'm going to go with Ulberg here to get a knockout here.
Yeah. You should get it done. I will say I don't like the minus 240 on that. I mean, again, at this weight class, to some degree, anything can happen. I wish that was a little closer, maybe to minus 160, but um, I do still think Ulberg gets the win on that. So, again, just sort of beware with the weight class that we're talking about. In that case, fight number six. Fight number six, we have Tim Elliott. Now, this is the end of the early prelims. Very busy night, of course, again. Fight number six, we have Tim Elliott versus Jordan Espinosa. We know Tim Elliott at this point. He's going to have that relentless style, that sort of awkward. I mean, I guess they call him awkward MMA, right? So we know it's going to have that. He's going to have that awkward stand-up style. It's very unorthodox. A lot of movement, a lot of fakes, a lot of level changes. So his opponent doesn't really know when that shoot for the takedown is coming. Definitely going to keep putting that pressure on you, right? Even if you're hitting him, he's going to still come forward unless you really hurt him, and he's probably still going to come forward in that case as well. When he does get you down, he's pretty relentless on top, right? He has good chain wrestling, relentless on top, doesn't really stay on you, so not physically the strongest, but, he has good grappling as well. So, you definitely don't want him on top of you at all if you're Jordan Espinosa. Jordan Espinosa, we know that he has good stand-up. We know that he has a pretty good switch stance in his stand-up approach, good kicks, pretty fast hands, definitely going to have the striking advantage in this. Important to note, at least statistically, he does have a 90% takedown defense. So that is something that's very important to note. We know as well that he has competed in a higher weight class, so he should, again, physically be the stronger fighter. Again, we see the 90% there for his takedown defense. Again, we know he should be the physically stronger fighter. So with his takedown defense that he has, hopefully that means, or not hopefully, but ideally for him, that would mean Tim Elliott doesn't get him to the ground, right? I think it's really going to come down to whether or not that takedown does happen. I mean, if you watch Jordan Espinosa versus De La Rosa, you'll get a sort of a good idea of the type of takedown defense that he has. I really think this is Espinosa's fight to lose. So he is going to be my pick on this, but we've seen him sort of be unreliable in the past. So I very much see why this fight is close to a pick 'em. Again, I think he has the tools. I think he has the strength. I think he will possess the takedown defense. And in a lot of ways, I feel like this is his fight to lose. So I'm going to go Jordan Espinosa on this.
Yeah, I think the safe fight's going to come down to whether or not Elliott can get this fight to the mat. Because, in my opinion, Elliott is on a 4-fight losing streak. In my opinion, I think he lost the fight to Ryan Benoit. I don't think he won that. Agreed. So, in my opinion, he's on a 4-fight skid. But I think Espinosa here, I think he's just a quicker striker, faster reflexes, a decent counter. And just a while ago, he was a pick-up versus Dvorak. So, and Dvorak is gonna cause some problems in that division pretty soon. So, I like Espinosa here. I think this stays on the feet. He's to me the better striker. I think he's gonna be able to just move around the ring, use his speed, and just kind of peck off or snipe at Elliott from a distance. So I see him winning this fight here, and I like him in this spot. So I'm going to go Espinosa. He should get this done to save his job.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely. In that case, fight number 7. Let's talk about Rogério Bontorin versus Kai Kara-France. Where are you going? Which direction are you going in on this one?
All right. So this fight, I see this fight staying on the feet. I think Kara-France is going to try to point fight, do his Frankie Edgar impression, moving around the ring, doing his boxing in and out, and it's effective. But I don't think he has the power to hurt Bontorin. I think I'm going to go with the underdog here. I think Bontorin has a little bit of pop here. I believe that France definitely could move around the ring and win a points decision by just hitting and not getting hit. But I think eventually Bontorin can land that power, and I think he has the power to change the fight. And I think as the fight goes on, and I've seen France get dropped a couple times in other fights, so he's a bit chinny. So I could see Bontorin getting one in there, and I like Bontorin in this spot. I think his power is going to be the edge. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with Bontorin. Eventually get into him. So I'm going to take Bontorin to win this fight.
So for this fight, not necessarily to save his job, but I think to kind of save really any hopes of remaining in the top 10. I kind of like Kai Kara France on this one. I think that, he should have the stand-up advantage. To your point, Bontorin definitely has the power advantage, in my opinion. And Bontorin presents really decent boxing. He has good speed. He has a lot of pop, pretty opportunistic puncher. We see Kai Kara have the faster sort of striking pace. But again, Bontorin's real methodical with it, right? He's opportunistic. He looks for that counter striking opportunity. And he has a real strong clinch. You saw it in the Ray Borg fight. He's physically strong, whereas Kai Kara France is not, to me. And to your point, we've seen Kai Kara get hit, show a little bit of chin, or a little bit of chinny performance, I should say, in some of his fights. But more importantly, his stand up does leave a little bit to be desired because he kind of allows himself to get hit, and that's sort of weird to me, right? Grappling to me is a weakness of Kai Kara France. So if Bontorin, to your point, can eventually catch him, he could potentially find himself in a grappling situation. And if you watch Kai Kara France's fight versus Brandon Royval, you get a real good example of how much that could be a problem for him. Again, there's a lot of reasons to like Bontorin in this fight, and you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it done as a slight underdog. But I do like Kai Kara France in this one. It's more of a gut instincts type of pick, I will be honest with you. And again, I think he's trying to save any hope of really being a contender in a very competitive division, I should say. So I'm gonna trust some of those X factors, go with a little bit more of a gut pick. I'm gonna go with Kai Kara France on this one, but again, not surprised at all if Bontorin pulls this one out. Fight number 8. In this case, we have a real good one here. Joseph Benavidez versus Askar Askarov. Talk about Joseph Benavidez a bit. We know he's a southpaw primarily, has a somewhat awkward style of stand-up. It does work really well, though. It works really well from a timing perspective. He has some pop as well. Has real long, awkward punches that land, and a real good calf kick, and he uses it a lot. Of course, my favorite strike in the UFC at the moment. He's a good grappler, good scrambler, especially on the ground. You get him down and somehow he ends up on top of you. I've seen that happen. Watch the Jussier Formiga fight to get a real good example of kind of the way he scrambles in grappling situations. And again, we also saw it in the Davison Figueiredo fight. There was some serious submission defense and some serious scrambling in that fight from Joseph Benavidez. So I do trust him on the ground. When we look at Askar Askarov, that's going to be real important to Benavidez because with Askarov, he's a real smothering wrestler, right? He's a southpaw as well, switches stance. It's going to be important or interesting, I should say, to see what direction he wants to go in. I think his stand-up is decent, but he's not the most active striker in any way. I think he kind of is too patient at times, and we'll see a pretty significant difference in potential striking pace here, although they do land at a similar clip, so that's interesting to note. With Askarov, I mean, again, he's not the most active, but he does have good boxing, he has sharp boxing. If you force him to engage, like we saw in the Tim Elliott fight, just doesn't engage consistent enough for me. And he's going to shoot for takedowns, right? He's going to hold that single leg against the cage, really try to wear you out. He has that smothering, Dagestani type of stand-up or grappling or wrestling on top. So, I mean, for Benavidez, he strikes big. He strikes down the head. It's a real close fight. It's a pick'em, almost literally. If this was a video game, I think Askarov would check more boxes. I think he would be the fighter with the higher overall rating, perhaps. But I'm going to trust Benavidez on this one. Again, real tough fight to call. I'm going to go with the slight underdog. And the reason why I think Benavidez potentially wins this, I like his distance control a little bit better. I think he's going to keep it on the outside. He moves a bit, uses that kind of looping power punches, goes in head first. So that's going to mean his legs are going to be even further away from Askarov. Potentially going to be hard for Askarov to land that takedown. And again, I'm gonna sort of trust Benavidez's ability on the ground to scramble like we saw him versus Pantoja, or you know what I mean? Like we saw Pantoja do to Askarov, I should say. So, I mean, again, real tough fight. A lot of reasons to like Askarov. I know I was rambling a bit there, but again, this is a real close one, and I think this requires pretty deep analysis. I'm gonna go with Joseph Benavidez as a slight underdog on this.
Yeah, on paper, Benavidez should like this matchup. He's fighting someone that he should have the better striking, and he should be able to keep this on the feet because his wrestling is good as well. So these are the fights that Benavidez actually performs well in historically. My problem with Benavidez is he's 36 now, and I think that beatdown from Figueiredo, I think that's gonna carry over here. I think that took a lot out of him. That fight was really bad. It was such a bad beatdown, and I think that could alter how he's going to approach fights in the future. Figueiredo, I know, is a beast. I like Askarov in this spot to pull it off, being the younger fighter. He seems to be on a roll right now. He pushes a pace. He pushes a pace that I'm not sure Benavidez is going to like, and I could see Askarov actually getting takedowns. I could see Benavidez getting back up, but I can see Askarov going for another one and another one. So I'm going to take Askarov in this fight. I think he has more at this point. I don't think Benavidez has that much left. And I think Askarov is the future. Like, is going to be one of the guys in the future that are going to be fighting for the title. So I'm going to take Askarov, and I think his wrestling's going to shine. I think we're going to see American wrestling versus that Russian wrestling or wherever this guy's from. And I think that Russian wrestling's going to win. So I'm going to go with Askarov.
Yeah, not a bad pick. I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls it out. Again, super, super tough fight to call. That one is 50-50 in a lot of ways. Fight number 9, Song Yadong versus Kyler Phillips. I mean, this is undoubtedly Kyler Phillips' toughest challenge, at least I think. I do think Kyler Phillips is the more dynamic striker. He relies a lot on his movement. He has that bounce in his stand-up. He uses that a lot to find his timing. He can come at you at any moment. He's very explosive, real good tie kick, calf kicks as well. Good takedowns as well, right? I see him look for a lot of positional improvements on top. He has some decent subs and some good ground and pound as well. For Yadong Song, I mean, he's pretty well-rounded. He's technically sound boxing, mixes in the kicks really well as well. A lot of reasons to like Song Yadong. I mean, he's gone against real tough competition and has performed well. But you know what? I like the underdog here. I like the underdog. I know Song Yadong is young as well, but I'm going to go with a fighter who I feel is maybe just a little bit more in his prime, if that makes sense. A little bit more of a dynamic striker. I think the calf kick is going to make a difference if Kyler Phillips chooses to use that as an active strategy. And in the Yadong Song versus Cody Stamann fight, we saw Stamann able to take him down a few times. That could also be a path for Kyler Phillips to potentially score some points, potentially steal a round if it's on the feet for 4 minutes. I just think he has a little bit more paths to victory. So I'm going to go Kyler Phillips, although, again, Song Yadong by far his toughest challenge.
Okay. And this is a bantamweight fight. So we know that this is Phillips' weight class, and Yadong Song is a featherweight. Or his last fight, he fought Marlon Vera and featherweights. So Yadong's going down in weight here. So Yadong should be the bigger guy, should be the stronger guy. Definitely should have the more power as well. But I actually like Phillips as well. I think, again, I wouldn't be surprised if Yadong comes in and just shows that there's levels to this. But Phillips has a confidence to him where he has really good striking. I think he can just stay on the outside and just kind of outstrike Yadong. And that's how I see this one going. If he stays clear of the power, I think he can cruise to a decision. But again, he's the underdog for a reason. But I'm going to go with Phillips. I think he has a smoother striking. And I think this is going to stay on the feet. As I think if he stays out of danger as far as the power, that's easy to say. But I think he has a good path to win this fight. So I'm going to go with Phillips, banking on his better striking, fighting smart. It's in his weight class, so he's comfortable there. Yadong's moving down in weight, so that could affect his cardio as well. I'm going to go with Kyler Phillips on this one.
I like it. I like it. And we didn't even mention the 5-inch reach advantage that Kyler Phillips has. Again, in addition to his kicks, that just kind of speaks to the potential distance control that it sounds like we're both anticipating in this fight. So let's move on into our final fight of the prelims. This could main event a card, and this is the final fight of the prelims. So again, super stacked card for UFC 259. Again, I think this is the card of the year by far. Um, Fight number 10, Dominick Cruz versus Kenney. This is tough. This is a real tough fight. I think Kenney, he's going to have the striking advantage without a question. He's more than likely the bigger fighter, the more physically stronger fighter. We saw him fight at 140 pounds versus Nathaniel Wood, and they both looked like they filled out that 140-pound catchweight fight. The scary thing with Kenney is that he has that wrestling too, because we know that's going to be something that Dom Cruz is going to look for as an advantage in any fight that he has. But I will say, Kenney versus Merab Dvalishvili, to some degree, a very telling fight. To other degrees, we know Dvalishvili possesses a lot more physical strength than Dominick Cruz does. So that might not mean anything at all. But we saw Kenney have some issues regarding an awkward fighter on the feet. Merab kind of has that sort of awkward style to him. We saw Merab have a ton of success with takedowns. Again, I'm not saying Dominick Cruz is as physically strong or has that Dagestani or Russian style of wrestling. And I mean, it showed that at the very least, Kenney is beatable if you have that sort of wrestling path as sort of a clear path to victory. But again, Merab Dvalishvili and Dominick Cruz are two very different fighters. Merab is much stronger. Regardless of that, though, I feel like that shows a bit of a blueprint of what could happen in this fight. It is 3 rounds, so that's important to note. I mean, Dominick Cruz, win or lose, I think he actually looked pretty decent in that Henry Cejudo fight. If you ask me, I think he still has good movement. I think he can keep up that movement for the entire fight, especially in a 3-round fight. And we know the kind of wrestling he has, right? Again, Kenney, I kind of spoke about him already. And what's going to be real interesting with him is that we saw the calf kicks that Henry Cejudo used versus Dom Cruz. Kenney throws those as well. So that could be, again, a very clear path for Kenney and create real issues for Cruz. My head tells me, logic tells me to choose Kenney on this fight. But again, I'm feeling the X factors on this card. I think there's some kind of X factor about a fighter feeling like they have to win. Dominick Cruz has not won since 2016, right? I think this is kind of his final check to himself as to whether or not he really belongs among the contenders. Kind of Paul Felder style in some ways, where it's just like, yeah, you know what, I probably don't belong here anymore. So it's going to be interesting. This could be a passing of the torch to kind of officially rule out Dominick Cruz as any sort of real contender in this weight class anymore. But I'm going to sort of ride the X factor. I'm going to go with Dom Cruz on this one.
Okay. I actually think Kenney is going to destroy Dominick Cruz. I think he's going to put him away, man, because I think the game past Dominick Cruz, like back in the day, he was the man. He was the guy. He was the most well-rounded guy. And he used to beat guys by being so well-rounded. If you had wrestling, he could keep it on the feet and outstrike. If you had striking, he had the wrestling to hold you down for the 3 rounds. He could do everything back in the day. But now the game has changed where everyone can do that. And one thing that Cruz didn't improve on is his strength. Like, he looked kind of weak in that fight versus Cejudo. He looked like he couldn't really he looked like he couldn't really get any grappling going if he wanted to. I don't think he has a shot here, man. I don't think he has the power to hurt Kenney. I think Kenney, like you said, is going to start working those leg kicks, the body shots, the body, like he mixes it up. So I think Kenney's going to win this fight. He's a new style and the new class of fighters, a new breed. I really believe Dominick Cruz is part of that old mold. I think he had his time, and I think that it's going to show. I don't think he's going to I don't think he's strong enough. I think he's a bit fragile. Like every fight, they kick his legs and he gets hurt. Like his legs get hurt. So I'm gonna take Casey Kenney to carry this on and start kicking those legs and win a decision because Dominick Cruz is tough. So it's gonna be hard to put him away. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kenney knocks him out. So I'm gonna go Casey Kenney. I think he's better right now, and I don't think Dom has much left. So yeah, Kenny's my pick.
Yeah, I want to play. I want to pay real close attention to that first round. I do hope it's a 50-50 round, but I think if it's a round that's a bit telling to say, hey, Cruz is not going to figure this out. I'm looking for live betting opportunities. End of round one, put some money on Casey Kenney. He's at minus 135 to start the fight. I mean, I'm willing to. That could jump down to minus 175, minus 185, and I think round one will kind of let you know if that's a live bet that's worth going in on. Speaking of bets, let's take this to Las Vegas. We got 10 fights on the prelims. Why don't we, rather than maybe one underdog, why don't we talk about a few underdogs that we do like in on this card?
Okay.
So I again we both mentioned Kyler Phillips, so I think that's one worth mentioning there. Rogério Bontorin, you mentioned.
Yep. Yeah, those are mine. That's all I'm looking at as far as dogs on the prelim. Jordan Espinosa, he's a favorite. Yeah, just those two for me. Jake Matthews to me is worth a look because remember he's gonna be the experienced guy in there, and just like Ponzinibbio versus Li Jinglang, when you're both similar, anything can happen. Is who lands first, right? So that's possible. So yeah, Jake Matthews is definitely something to look at. Livinha Souza can pull it off. She has a completely different style from Lemos. I went with Lemos, but if this goes to the mat, if this is a grappling match, that's her fight to win, right? So
yeah. And again, I mean, I think Trevin Jones is live. I mean, depends on what that drug test was, but I think he's kind of live in this one. And at plus 187, there could be some real good odds there. I think again, round one is going to be very telling. So I mean, a lot can happen on this card. Obviously, that's kind of what we're getting at here. Do you have a parlay for this?
Yeah, parlay wise for the prelim.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Uros Medic.
Uros Medic. Okay.
Well, but I'll be honest. This card, I'm going to be putting a lot of my money in that main card. And that's where I did a lot more research as well. Like the main card, the 5 or 6 or 7 fights in that main card, that's where I'm going to put most of my cash. But prelim wise, yeah, I'll look at Carlos Ulberg, Uros Medic, and Mario Bautista.
Okay. Carlos Ulberg minus 225, Uros Medic minus 170. Who was the third name you said?
Mario Bautista
as well, minus 225. Yeah. I'm gonna pretty much echo the same message there. Every other fight is way too close for my liking, so let's kind of stick to that. In that case, you guys know what to do already. Do all that stuff to help the algorithms out. Like, comment, rate, subscribe, share it. And let's have some conversation. Who are your underdog picks on this prelim card? How do you feel about the Casey Kenney versus Dom Cruz fight? Is Dom Cruz done? Let's have some conversation in the comments so you guys know what to do already. Boxing MMA picks. This is the prelims. UFC 259, Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz. I go by Harris. He goes by Zan. Let's get this money.
Let's do it.